All right, so let's talk about this Robert Easter Denis Shafikov fight last night. A lot of controversy with the scoring here. There's just no way to defend the scoring in this fight. First off, I got to talk about it. The 120, 108 scores were just horrendous, and I think that needs to be mentioned before anything in this fight because this was a really entertaining fight. It was a good fight. Both guys put on decent performances. They made for an exciting fight. They made for a very competitive fight, and they made for a fight that was very fun to watch. And unfortunately, all of that is going to get overshadowed by these outrageous scorecards because first off, I just got to let everybody know I scored the fight 114, 114, a draw. Could have very easily have been 115 to 113 for Denis Shafikov. So I just got to get that out of there before I start breaking down this fight and doing the recap. I thought Robert Easter had a hard time keeping Denis Shafikov on the outside with the jab. You know, Denis Shafikov got low, did very well with his head movement. And not only that, I thought that, when he got inside, he was really working hard to the body. Maybe not all of the shots landed, but he was still touching Robert Easter. And in those moments, Robert Easter really wasn't landing any clean blows. So even though those body shots may not have had a severe impact, or they appear to not have a severe impact on Robert Easter, at least he was touching him, scoring points, and pushing Robert Easter back. I thought that Robert Easter had some good moments himself. I thought that he was able to land some good sharp short uppercuts on the inside. When Shafikov stood right in the middle center line and did not step off to the side or didn't move his head, there were some moments where Shafikov was stationary, and he had his his hand positioning was like the earmuff type stance, and that welcomed the short uppercut up and underneath. And also another good thing that Robert Easter was doing, he was landing the counter right hand, but he was shortening up, he was looping around the guard, so he's throwing a short loopy right hand. But the big thing here was the jab really needed to be the defining weapon for Robert Easter. And some people, tend to think that he doesn't use it enough, or some people tend to think that he abandons it because he wants to slug it out and he wants to make for an exciting fight. So I'm gonna give you my explanation on what happened in this fight. As I said, I thought he had a hard time keeping Denis Shafikov on the outside, so he had to try to fight him a little bit on the inside because Shafikov did a great job of taking the jab away from him because he just couldn't hit him with it consistently. So he made a decision that, this is going to have to be a gritty fight for me. I'm going to have to grind this one out. And I'm going to have to do something on the inside because this guy is getting past my jab and he's getting inside. And I can either do one or two things. I could just sit there and be a deer in the headlights and try to hold him and not punch back. Or I could try to catch him coming in. I could try to shorten up my shots on the inside. And I got to go punch for punch with him. And, there were moments, like as I said, where I thought that Easter did hold his own on the inside. But I just think Shafikov made adjustments as this fight wore on. He was able to take that short right uppercut away from Robert Easter because when he was on the inside, he was moving to his right, away from the right hand, away from the uppercut. And as he was doing that, when he stepped off to the side, planted his feet, he was throwing a looping left hand over the top. That was a very unorthodox punch. But you know what? It was effective. It was effective. It was like one of those Marcos Maidana wild type, unorthodox type punches that a fighter is not typically used to seeing. So I thought he was effective with that loop-in shot, that loop-in left hand. And I thought, as I said, he was just touching Robert Easter to the body. I don't think either fighter was significantly hurt in this fight, but what I do think is the fast pace and the pressure that Shafikov was putting on Robert Easter, I think as the fight wore on, I thought it was starting to take a little bit out of Robert Easter. I thought both guys were tired. You could see Shafikov in between rounds. He was, taking deep breaths as well. But he was the one that was still working. He had, a higher output in this fight. It was very clear to see that. And I just think that he kept moving forward. He kept doing the things he wanted to do for the most part, whereas Robert Easter was the one that looked uncomfortable. He looked like the one that was kind of getting tired. And he just was not consistent with his offense. He was fighting in spots where Shafikov was really coming on and putting on pressure throughout the whole round. And I thought that he finished the show strong. I thought he swept the championship rounds. But I thought Easter, as I said, did some good counter work with the short loop and right hand on the inside and landing some good uppercuts and, put some short combinations together up close. But, as, Shafikov was adapting as the fight wore on, he wasn't standing right in front of Robert Easter. And as I said, he was moving to his right more and kind of setting up shop on the, on the right side. And that's where he was able to land that loop in left hand and dig those body shots. And he was pushing Robert Easter back. So all in all, this was a fight that I think could have been 115-113 for Shafikov. Possibly a draw. If you really were hard pressed for Robert Easter, you could have given him a 115-113 scorecard too. It was not out of the realm of possibility. But the scorecards were just horrible. There's no way of getting around that. They were bad scorecards. And again, you had a Russian versus an American. And you know how we have this new neo-Nazi party here on YouTube, this faction. So it's going to be a USA versus Russia thing, and it's going to be a bias against the Russian fighter. Now, was it a hometown decision in regards to the scorecard? Absolutely. Why do I think that? Well, again, Robert Easter is a PBC fighter. He was in his hometown. He was in Ohio, and this was a PBC card. So would it be, outrageous to suspect or say or think that, okay, these judges were favoring the hometown fighter? They were Ohio-based judges, I'm suspecting, because it was an Ohio fight. I didn't really look at the judges. I didn't, forgive me for not really going behind the scenes and doing the research on the judges, but, it was from, the Ohio Athletic Commission. They picked the judges. So, they picked the judges and they were in charge of, doing that in regards to the event. So, again, to me, it really wouldn't have mattered who it was in there, whether if it was Russian, if it was an Italian guy, if it was a German guy, because it's the guy's in his hometown and he's his management team and his promoter basically are, they're the house promoter. Then okay, yeah, you can definitely put that out there that there was some bias or favoritism towards the hometown fighter who had the lead promoter or the lead manager, however you want to call it. They were handling the event. So of course you could say that if you want to. I mean, it's definitely out there. But was it because Shafikov was Russian, or was it because Easter is, the hometown fighter and he's the A side in the promotion? I'm not going to sit there and get into this Russia versus USA thing, because I think it's retarded. I think there's enough corruption in the sport to go around for everyone in every country. I think all promoters do what's best for their fighters. And, if there are judges or officials, in that event, could they be swayed by the A side? Could they be swayed by the cheering in the crowd? Could they be saying to themselves, hey, if I don't score for the hometown guy, I may not get the call again? Yeah. But do I think that there is a conspiracy that every time a Russian fighter fights in the USA, we're going to fill the scorecards out before the fight is over. No, I don't think that. Do I think there's a backdoor deal? No, I don't think that. And until someone can prove that to me, then I'm not going to say that that's happening. But I will say that, yes, a hometown fighter got the benefit of the doubt with the judges here. He was the house fighter. He had the promotional team behind him. There's no question about that. They were in charge of the event, so they're picking the judges and they're picking the officials. And it is the Ohio State Athletic Commission that is handling the event. So it is what it is. But again, this has been going on in the sport of boxing. And just because, I accept it and I'm numb to it, doesn't mean that I go along with it. But at the end of the day, I've seen it over and over again in so many different instances, not just with Americans versus Russia, but Americans versus Americans, Americans versus UK fighters, Americans versus an Asian fighter. There's always been questionable decisions, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but Holyfield and Nikolai Valuev, I thought Holyfield clearly won the fight. And he went over in Switzerland and he lost the fight. Okay, there's going to be instances like that, where you're going to have questionable decisions no matter where you fight, no matter where it is. The thing is, because there's so many high-profile fights in the United States, that it's going to be more publicized here because the biggest money events are held here. If you look in Vegas, all of the best performing pay-per-view fights or financially performing fights have been predominantly in Vegas. So, of course, if there's bad decisions in Vegas, they're going to be highly publicized because the whole world is watching. There's thousands and thousands of fights going on throughout the world, okay? And just because they're not all publicized as much as the fights that are being held in the United States, because they're not as big as the fights that are being held in the United States, that doesn't mean that there's not questionable decisions going on as we speak right now in another country. So, I've been watching this sport a long time. I know people don't want to hear that. They think I'm trying to, talk down to them because I'm older than them. I'm 48 years old, guys. I've been watching this fight game for a long time. And, I just seen a lot of the things that are going on today happening way back when, and nothing has changed. So, the story is the same, just the faces have changed. So it's not like this is anything new. Doesn't mean I condone it, but I'm just so used to it that I've come to accept it, and I'm not gonna try to make it more than it is, or try to add my own conspiracy theory in here, because do I think that there's payoffs, there's backdoor deals? Absolutely not. Is there bias in the sport? Yeah, of course there's bias. Do I think that there's corruption in the sport? Yeah, you could say that too if you want. But we really can't prove it though. We can't prove it. We can't prove that guys are getting paid off. We can't prove. All we can do is suspect. And for anyone to sit there and pass off information as it being factual, then, you're lying. A lot of this is opinion-based, and a lot of it is circumstantial evidence. When we do have empirical data to suggest certain things, of course we do. Do I think that all the top fighters in the sport predominantly are taking PEDs? I've said this several times. Absolutely. Do I think there's bias in the sport? Absolutely. But do I think there's just one type of bias in the sport between America and Russia? Do I think that there's this conspiracy that anytime a Russian fighter comes over here, automatically or Eastern European fighter comes over here, he's gonna get robbed? No, I don't. Because Gennady Golovkin fought Danny Jacobs, and I actually thought that fight was closer than the first Andre Ward-Sergey Kovalev fight, and a lot of people agree with me. So, I had Danny Jacobs winning by a point. You had Golovkin winning. I can't argue with you. It was a close fight. I don't care what anyone says. I think it was a close fight. That's my opinion. And if there's ever going to be corruption, or if there's ever a place where there could be corruption, that was the perfect opportunity. You had a New York fighter, okay, fighting in New York against an Eastern European fighter, and the Eastern European fighter got the decision. You know, he got the decision. Was robbery? Absolutely not. It was a close fight that I believe could have went either way. Could have gone either way. I scored it for Jacobs, but I have no problem with Golovkin. So Golovkin was an Eastern European fighter. He didn't get robbed, and he's going on to fight Canelo Alvarez. So it is what it is, guys. This was a bad decision. No question about it. No question about it. It was a bad decision. But this was not an America versus Russia thing. This was basically the house fighter getting the benefit of the doubt in his home state, which happens anywhere in the world, and which has happened anywhere in the world. And that's just my opinion on it, guys. But let's remember, let's end it on this. This was a good fight. It was a very entertaining fight. And, you know, we should not let the scorecard controversy take away from the fact that it was a very entertaining fight that was enjoyable to watch, at least in my opinion. All right, guys, until next time, talk to y'all soon. Beeb is out. Peace.